So hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me this afternoon. So my name is Chelsea Price, and I'm the library director at the Meservey Public Library. And we are in the North Central District. We're pretty close to the Minnesota border. And is there any way, let me see, how do I had the thing where I could see myself, and now I can't see myself anymore. It's going to bother me.
Do you have a self view option?
Oh, well, we won't worry about it. I just won't be able to fix my hair, so somebody will have to tell me if it's messed up.
Looking good so far.
So I have been the director at the Meservey Public Library for about 6.5 years now, which is crazy to think it's been so long. So I hope everybody's doing okay. I know we're all kind of in different spots when it comes to COVID and stuff like that, but I hope everybody's chugging along and surviving, if not thriving, and everybody's staying healthy. This is a picture of me and my dog Riley. I think everybody should have their pets in their professional headshot. It makes things a little more fun. But that's my dog Riley. My husband and I have 3 elderly dogs at home, and they are 14, 15, and 17. That's kind of what we have spent the last few years doing, is rescuing like elderly special needs dogs in shelters. So we've had fun doing that, and that's our guy we've had actually since we got married. And then that is a picture of my book, 209 Big Programming Ideas for Small Budgets. So that was published in October of last year. And let me tell you, 2020 was not a good time to publish a book about programming because nobody was doing it. So it was just a terrible time to come out with a programming book. But you know what? We didn't know, and now we do. And it is what it is. So isn't my cover beautiful at least? I can't take credit for it, but they did a really good job with the cover. Today, we're not going to discuss 209 ideas. We won't quite get there, but we'll hopefully get a chance to discuss quite a few. A little bit about myself before I get into programming. I do not have a library science degree. I have a degree in psychology, actually, and I have never worked in libraries before. I kind of just stumbled into this job. They had been without a director here for about 6 months, so maybe they were a little desperate when they hired me. I don't know, but I found my footing very quickly, and I've come. It's a job that I have always felt very comfortable in. I feel very at home in this job. It just feels like a good fit for me. And I guess you could say that even though I don't have a library science degree or a library background, I have librarianship is in my blood because my mom was a small town library director as well, from when I was born all the way through when I was in high school. So I would go there every day after school. And I would help her shelve and answer phones and things like that. And then my grandma, my mom's mom, was a school librarian from ages 40, and then she retired when she was 80. So I just feel very comfortable in and around libraries, and I just, like I said, I feel like this job has been a really good fit for me. I write also for Programming Librarian, so you might have seen some of my blog posts. Excuse me, I'm pregnant and full of heartburn and acid reflux. So if any weird noises come out of me, I am so sorry. I have to ask before we get into the programming stuff, do we have any one-person libraries here today? You can answer in chat. If you're a solo librarian, anybody? Oh, we do. At least one. Okay. It looks like we've got a couple. Awesome. So I just want to give like a virtual little round of applause. I always do this to my one-person libraries in particular, because I don't know how you do it. I could not survive without my library assistant. And so I give you all the props in the world. So I just want to give a little virtual kudos to you, especially in the one-person libraries. Good for you. So I'm going to be coming from the perspective of a tiny librarian, just because that's what I know. Meservey is only a town of 250 people. And so, we have to wear all of the hats. When you work in a small library, you're not just the director, you're also the youth and teen librarian. You do the outreach, you do the marketing, you do the IT. Usually you do the janitor type stuff, you do the landscaping, the accounting. You have to wear all of the hats, and it's a lot. It can be a lot. And so, and that's not to say that in the larger libraries, you don't wear fewer hats. You wear different hats than we do. In the bigger cities, they have to be, they've have acted as first responders. Sometimes they shouldn't have to, but they have. They've acted as social workers, things like that. So librarians just wear a lot of hats, and it's a lot. So I hope, everybody's doing well in this time. And let's talk about programming. So a little bit about Meservey first. So as I said, 250 people in Meservey, very rural farming community. The nearest school in our district is now like 20 to 25 minutes away. So our town doesn't have a school. We don't have a community center. We don't even have a bank anymore. We don't have a gas station. We've got a church. We have a bar. We have a fire station, a post office, and my little library. So the library kind of serves as a source of free entertainment, the only source of free Wi-Fi, the town's largest meeting space. Like if you want to go get groceries, you have to go at least 15 or more minutes away to get groceries. Any source of entertainment, like a movie theater, is at least 15 minutes away. I am very lucky to have a 2-person staff. It's me and my library assistant who, like I said, I am so grateful for her. I wouldn't get any work done if I had to work all of our open hours, to be honest. And she's super helpful when it comes to programming and stuff like that. We are just one large room, our library. We don't have any separate meeting rooms, just one big room. And as you can imagine, we also have a very small budget with very little wiggle room. So I really have to use my imagination and think outside of the box when it comes to programming. To be perfectly candid, our annual budget is $30,000 a year. Excuse me, again, pregnant. And yes, that $30,000 includes like our wages and our material budget, everything. So that's not a lot to work with. And I wish it wasn't that way, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is for a lot of tiny libraries like mine. And so we have to really think outside of the box and take advantage of partnerships and things like that when it comes to saving money for programming. So I want to start off by saying you are doing a great job and your community is very lucky to have you. I think whatever we as librarians are doing for our communities right now is enough. In fact, it's more than enough. I think it's so important, especially like in this past year and a half, to be super gentle with yourself, take it easy on yourself. We don't need to be doing absolutely everything. We don't need to be comparing ourselves to other libraries that seem like they're doing everything, and we don't have to be super productive all the time. Like personally, some days I consider it a win if I put pants on in the morning or take a shower every day. Sometimes that's all I can ask for, we're all just stumbling along. Nobody really knows what's going on or what's going to happen in the future. Some of us might even still be like partially closed to the public, not doing any in-person programming. And so we're all just finding our footing, trying to do what we think is best for us. Not recently, it's been a while now, but earlier this year, I wrote a blog post for Programming Librarian called The Guilty Librarian. And it was a really personal post about just these feelings of guilt that I have, especially during this last year and a half about what if I'm not doing enough for my community? I should be doing more. What if I'm letting my community down? And I got emails from all around the country and even a few outside of the country from librarians who felt exactly the same and felt those same feelings of guilt. And I can't tell you how much those kind of emails mean to me. Like, it makes us feel less alone. It makes me realize that we are kind of all in the same boat and just, trying to find our footing, like I said. And then I will also, if you guys, I'll share my email address at the end of this presentation. If you want some of these links to various blog posts that I mention in the presentation, I'd be happy to send those to you. I have a lot of links that are pretty good stuff. Librarianship is unique because, again, we're expected to do it all, and we're expected to do it all with a smile on our face because we love serving our community and we love our patrons and we love programming all the time. And it can be exhausting sometimes, especially this past year and a half. And it can be hard to care about serving your community well when you always feel like you're running on empty. And I know this year we've talked burnout to death. I think we're all burned out on talking about burnout, so I won't go into it. I have done a few presentations on it just because I feel like librarianship is such a unique job, and there's this weird mythology surrounding librarianship that's very interesting. So I thought it was important just to mention it at the beginning. Like, if you are feeling burned out, like I highly recommend seeing a medical professional just to rule out anything else, because those symptoms of burnout really do closely mirror other things like depression. But I think it's so important to remember that all the self-care in the world doesn't replace mental health care. So I think it's important to have a balance of self-care and mental health care. And I think I always bring it up in my presentations because I think it's so important to talk about, especially in customer service related type jobs like ours. I have depression myself, and I have been, in and out of therapy on antidepressants for like 10 years. And I just try to talk about it all the time because I think it's so important to destigmatize and normalize this. And there's no shame in seeking out help for your mental health. In customer service related jobs, honestly, I think it should be almost a requirement to do some sort of mental health care, just because it can be so tiring and so exhausting. But anyway, sometimes, what was I going to say? Oh, sometimes if I'm in like a programming funk, not necessarily full burnout, but if I'm in a programming funk, something that helps me is all these blogs that I have bookmarked on my laptop. And I have a really great list of all these different resources, blogs, webinars, stuff like that. And sometimes that burst of inspiration can be all it takes to help me feel passionate and excited about my job again. So if you want those links, feel free to reach out to me and I'll share them with you. So regardless of our size or the size of our budget, we all love saving money, right? So these are going to be some budget-friendly program ideas, things that we've done ourselves or I've seen at other libraries that don't break the bank. Passive programming is obviously a great choice, especially in these times where we might not be fully open to the public yet. Because it doesn't require a lot of money, energy, or staff time, but it still counts in your programming numbers, which is awesome. If you like passive programming and want more ideas, I highly recommend this book that came out, I think last year or earlier this year, called The Passive Programming Playbook. It's a really good one. I think there's like over 100 passive programming ideas in there that are really great. Passive programming also makes for some great social media posts, makes for some great photo opportunities, and it increases interactions with your patrons. For example, if you have like a whiteboard poll set up at your front desk, that can spark a little conversation with the patron that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And things like whiteboard polls also can really be helpful because you can get feedback. For example, if you put a poll up, do you like reading physical books or do you like reading on an e-reader? Or, what's your favorite genre of movie? You can get a lot of helpful feedback. In that way. And then you can also do your whiteboard polls online, do them via social media the same way. And there's some passive programs that you can do while you're closed to public, in addition to social media posts. This library, I think this is from a library in Iowa, they have an I Spy window. And they wrote out a little poem that kids could read, talking about the different things they could find in the window. And so even when the library is closed, patrons walking by can play the I Spy game. And I thought that was so cute. I love that they used, rather than like printing out pictures of stuff, they used actual objects in their windows. I thought that was really clever. And something similar is displaying your patron collections in the windows if you have nice windows like this. At our library right now, we have a patron who collects those big geodes, and he collects like cool rocks and crystals and stuff like that. So we have those out on display at our library right now. And I guarantee there's a patron in your community with like, I don't know, a really cool toy car collection or a community memorabilia collection that, if it's possible, you could set up in your window so that people have something to look at when they walk by your library. Other passive programming I love when we're open, I love to do scavenger hunts in our kids area. We've done a lot of like seasonal or holiday themed scavenger hunts. I remember at St. Patrick's Day, we hid these little gold coins around the kids area. And if they found a gold coin, they could bring it up and get like a piece of candy. So that's really fun and the kids love it. And then when you're closed, another fun thing I've seen to do on your social media is have your patrons play like guessing games on your social media, like guess which staff member or board member loves Marvel movies, or guess which board member likes to garden in her spare time. And then you have your social media followers guess. And that's kind of fun. There's a lot of really great passive programming ideas. And I think right now, when a lot of us still might not be doing in-person programming, I think it's super important to utilize this as much as we can. And it's super cheap. Oops. Okay, so these are some low-cost program ideas that we have done ourselves that didn't cost much money and had a really high success rate with our young patrons, and had really high attendance rates for our library as well. Slime is still a thing. Like, it's been around for quite a few years, but the kids still love it as much as they ever did. And it appeals to kids of a lot of ages as well. And the items to make slime are usually super cheap. You might even have them laying around your house. Things like contact solution, cornstarch, shaving cream, and all the glue you can imagine. And the kids just see the ingredients and they know what to do. They like flock to it and just jump on it and start making slime. And it's fun because you can make different kinds. You can make fluffy or stretchy. You can add food coloring glitter, those water bead things. And the kids really enjoy it. One thing I do recommend is that you do it outside like we did, or you lay like a giant tarp down, because that's not good when you've got carpet in your library. We just hosed the sidewalks down after this and everything was good. We have done a dino dig. I think this was for a summer reading program, but I can't remember which theme. But basically I filled a baby pool that we already had with sand from like a park. And then I buried these little plastic dinosaur toys in there, and I buried eggs in there. I think I buried the shaker eggs that we use in story time, but you could also bury Easter eggs in there, whatever. And then I gave each kid a toothbrush to like dig with it and then brush it off when they found it. And they were really excited. And in retrospect, this picture alarms me because I did it inside and I did not have a tarp down. So I have to imagine there was sand just everywhere, which I do not recommend. Do it outside or lay a tarp down. But it was really fun and really easy. And then that day we also did rock painting, and we did We made salt dough fossils with these seashells we had in the supply closet. So the kids really like that. Relay races are really popular with our kids. This picture is just a race they did with blown up balloons, and they're racing them, hitting them with a pool noodle. And they had to come and loop-de-loop around a chair and then come back and hand their stuff to the next person. And it gets rowdy in here when we do relay races for sure. But the kids love it, and it makes some really cute videos and pictures for Facebook. We've also done like which team can make the longest paper chain in the shortest amount of time. We've had them hold hands and do the hula hoop thing where they all have to wriggle their bodies through a hula hoop in the fastest amount of time. And we've also done a lot of minute to win it games. You can Google minute to win it games, and there's so many ideas out there, and the kids love them. They go nuts. We also played a few minute to win it games at our Valentine's Day party. The Valentine's party was before all hell broke loose, excuse my language, with COVID. So that was right before everything started. But we played a lot of minute to win it games with candy hearts. So we had them suck up candy hearts using a straw and then transferring them from one place to another. They did the same thing using chopsticks. They see how many they could balance in a stack before it fell over, and they really loved that. And then we got a good deal on the ice cream. It was an ice cream party. So we got a good deal on the ice cream from like a local gas station. And then each of my board members donated a couple ice cream toppings. And then all of these decor items and the dishes came from the Target dollar spot. So it was actually a really reasonably priced party. And the kids love making their own sundaes. They love the minute to win it games. It was just a hit. And I forgot to say before we dove into the program ideas, some of these are going to be COVID friendly, COVID safe, and some of them will not be. I just wanted a healthy mix in there. And I know we all kind of have different ideas on what we feel comfortable doing programming wise right now. So I just wanted to share a variety.
Hey, Chelsea, this is Sam. Hair check still looks great. But we do have a question about your Minute to Win It program here, which is this like a one-time event or something you do as an ongoing program?
Most of all of our programs are one-time things. The only programs we do regularly are obviously the summer reading program, and we try to do like a monthly toddler story time. So the Minute to Win It games have just been something we need something to do at a party or kids event. And then we Google, Minute to Win It games. And there's tons of them out there. So we just usually incorporate them into our programs.
Good deal.
Yeah. And so Trivia Night was one of my favorite programs ever. This particular Trivia Night was not an event for kids, but I shared it anyway because I think it could be easily made into a family trivia night rather than adult. By this trivia night was The Office themed. I love the TV show The Office, which I know is not a terribly original thing to say these days, but I do. And so I really wanted to do an Office themed trivia night. But you could easily do a family night with like Disney movies, Marvel movies. You could do anime or video games for like teen trivia night. And so for this particular night, I got a half off deal with a local bakery. And they, if you watch The Office, you'll know there's a character named Stanley who loves pretzel day. So we got some soft baked pretzels from a local bakery for a pretty good deal, and a few other snacks. And then I got a bunch of cool prizes online. And I think I spent just a little over $100 on food and prizes, which is generally more than I would normally spend on one program. But then I put a donation jar out at the front desk. I didn't charge anything. I just put it out there. Excuse me. And at the end of the night, we had $120 in there. So that was more than enough to pay for the food and the prizes. And then it was a hit. I made a PowerPoint slideshow with the questions on it. They wrote their answers down on whiteboards and held them up while I kept score. And the funnest part was that they all came in costume. So having that themed costume part was really fun. And it ended up being one of my favorite adult programs, and costing the least amount of money for an adult program, which is awesome. And again, if you want an office trivia night, again, not for kids, if you want an office trivia night, I'd be happy to share my slideshow with you. The other side is the Stranger Things escape room. My library assistant and I did this a couple Octobers ago. And Stranger Things, it was aimed more toward teens. So this was a really great program for teens. We did purchase the Breakout EDU kit for $150 because we planned and still plan at some point when it's safe to do escape rooms again with it. So that's how we justified that cost. But you could really easily find locks and UV pens and flashlights on Amazon and create your own Breakout EDU kit. You don't need to buy it. But other than that, the only thing we spent money on here was black tablecloths from the Dollar Tree, which we hung up to block the bookshelves. We wanted to make it look like an 80s teen basement. And I think we did a really good job. You can't see the other part, but there's like a game table with like vintage games. There's a ping pong table set up. And everything we used was either stuff that family members had at home or that we already had. And so it really looked good. I know this picture doesn't look like much, but it really did look good by the time we were done. And I have all the details for this escape room and the trivia night in blog posts on Programming Librarian. Again, happy to share those links. I have breakdowns to all the puzzles and things like that. And we didn't have a huge turnout for the escape room, but the feedback we got from the people that showed up was amazing. And again, I couldn't believe how it was time and rather labor intensive, but I couldn't believe how cheap it ended up being. It cost us almost nothing. So upcycling is a really easy way to save money by using recyclable materials that your library might already have laying around. One thing that's worked for us in the past is giant games. I don't know why, but kids are really attracted to anything that's like life size or giant. They just, I don't know, it appeals to them. So we did Jenga. This picture is of Jenga, and it's just wrapped 12-pack soda can boxes wrapped in paper. And they loved that and played it for quite a long time. You can also do things like giant memory or Scrabble with big pieces of construction paper. You can do Candyland with colorful paper squares on the floor and a cardboard dice. And the same thing with the wrap boxes. You could do a Lego program, Minecraft program, Angry Birds program, all of that with wrapped cardboard boxes. And then I've also seen people do, these aren't recyclable materials, but I've also seen giant pickup sticks with those big wooden dowels. I've seen Kerplunk also with wooden dowels and those plastic balls. And I've even seen a giant Hungry Hippo where they like lay on their stomachs on scooters. That's really fun. We've never done it ourselves, but it looks really fun. And then a drive-in movie, I think, is such an adorable idea. I've seen it at other libraries in our area, but we haven't done it ourselves yet. But you know, each kid makes their own car out of boxes and paper plates and tinfoil. And then they just sit in their little cars and they watch a movie or a video and just add popcorn, and you've got a pretty easy and cheap program. And then these are programs that either are free or can be easily made to be free. Last Halloween, we did a trunk or treat event because we didn't feel comfortable having our usual Halloween party inside. And so we decorated the back. I happened to have my little orange Prius at the time, which was very fitting with the color theme. And my library assistant decorated the back of this with stuff we already had or stuff I brought from home. And she is just so good at decorating. I'm not good at any of that stuff, and I'm just so grateful I have her because she decorated this whole thing. And then each Halloween, our board members each donate 2 bags of candy. So we didn't have to go out and buy candy. We printed out coloring sheet activity pages, things like that, to hand out to the kids as well. And then we took photos of each kid. We have this like life-size skeleton guy that we sat on the bench, and then the kids posed with him and took pictures that we gave to their parents. So I really don't think, besides, our time and printer paper and ink, we didn't spend any money on this program, and we had a really nice turnout. And I think we'll probably do something like this again this year. And then a dance party. This is not something I've done at my library yet, although we have done dancing and stuff at story times. But I have read several blog posts about like toddler or baby dance parties, and they always sound so much fun, and you can very easily make them free. There's so many awesome kids music videos and songs on YouTube. There's this website, I think it's called Cuckoo Kangaroo, but I might be completely off. But they have really silly dances and songs that are earworms. They'll be in your head days later. That the kids love dancing to. And you can add props that you already might have for story time: rhythm sticks, egg shakers, scarves, bubbles, and just try to get the parents to dance if you can. And of course, if you want the parents to dance, you're going to have to dance too, because kids, they can smell fear. They can sense if you're uncomfortable, and then they won't have fun and be comfortable either. So, you have to get in there and dance as well. But, and I really love the idea. You could add a theme to a toddler dance party. You could do like a 50s sock hop theme. You could do an 80s theme. You could do a Disney theme where you only listen to Disney songs. And then you could I couldn't. My library assistant could pretty easily make like a photo booth backdrop for them to take photos in front of. And I just think it sounds so fun. And I do have a couple of links in that document. Please email me about toddler dance parties. Our former youth consultant, Angie, has a really good blog post on kids music, a lot of really great resources on different kids music, and she talks about a baby dance party, which sounds awesome. And then an exercise program is always really easy and cheap or free to do. You can partner up with a local gym or YMCA, see if they have somebody that would want to partner with you to do like a kids yoga, kids Zumba event. Or you can just search up videos on YouTube. There's a ton of workout videos. Honestly, I just shared this mostly because it's one of my favorite flyers I've ever made. I think it's really fun. But that's a really easy thing to do, and you can make it free. Another big thing lately is goat yoga. And how perfect, because a lot of us, I'm sure, have farmers around us that have goats. So maybe if they have some really family-friendly goats, they could bring them in for some goat yoga, which really, just be warned, it's not really for exercise. You just basically lay there and let goats climb on you, but it's a lot of fun. I've seen that a couple places now. And then virtual program ideas. I think in general, people are getting kind of sick of virtual programs, which I understand. But there's still a lot of cool ways you can interact with your patrons on social media. As I kind of said before, you could do contests, but you can also do things like photography or art contests where you have your followers submit a cool photo that they took, and then have your social media followers vote on which one they like the best. And then maybe they could win a prize. You could do Lego challenges online. You could do guess how many jelly beans in the jar. You could shred up some discarded book pages and have them see if they can guess which book is in the jar. And then polls, we talked about whiteboard polls. I did see a library last Christmas. They did like a March Madness bracket, but it was with different holiday cookies and treats. And they said, which holiday cookie do you prefer? And that was really cute. And then you can do live game night. I've seen libraries do Boggle, word searches, Bunko, trivia, all online, which is pretty impressive. I don't have the energy to do that, but I give all the props to those who do. Video book talks, if you keep your videos pretty bite-sized and short, it's a great way to interact with your patrons giving book talks. Or kids are really into unboxings. If you get a big shipment of new toys or something, or DVDs from Amazon or wherever, unbox them on camera and just kind of talk about each title as you take it out. I don't know why, but like tweens and teens are really into that. Crafting and DIY videos online. I have a link to a blogger I follow in Illinois who's a teen librarian, and she does some amazing take-home art kits for teens. And she's done terrariums with her teens. She's done bubble tea, just some really neat, unique stuff. And then you could do a reader's advisory lightning round, which is just when you ask for a title that your follower has really enjoyed. They leave a title of a book, and then you get right back to them with like 3 more recommendations of books they should read next, which obviously it's impossible for us to know every book. So I like to use bookbrowse.com, and I also use whatshouldireadnext.com. And you can just type in the title of a book. They don't have every book. But you can type in the title of a book and get a bunch of recommendations for books that might be similar if you're unfamiliar with the book that they talk about. So those are just a few ideas for low-cost programs. And then I want to talk quickly about partnerships, because partnerships are pretty much the cornerstone of our programming because they save money. And they're often mutually beneficial to both parties. And we all know the importance of like partnering with schools. And I do want to say that our new State Library Youth Consultant, Tegan, was a contributor to the book, my book. And she talked about her partnership doing a teen book club at her school district. And it's really, she gives all the details on how she made it work, how she kept it reasonably priced. So she's going to be awesome, guys. How to get started. I like the idea of starting partnerships by being a tourist in your own community. Keep a running list of businesses, organizations, and clubs that are in your area. Check out what they have going on. For example, if you have like your community center has a craft night on Thursday nights, you probably want to avoid doing a craft related program at your library on Thursday nights, especially if you're in a small town like mine, just in case they conflict. Introduce yourself and build a relationship with the business owners or the leaders of the organizations. Don't start off by asking, can you help me with this program? Just introduce yourself, learn their name, talk about what's going on at the library that day, build those positive relationships. And then once you have a positive relationship with somebody and you want to ask for their help with a program or to partner up, keep it simple. Just say, would you ever be interested in presenting a 30-minute program at my library, or would you be interested in donating juice boxes for summer reading? Keep it simple, and if they say yes, then you are possibly building on a partnership, and if they say no, then you've at least planted that seed for possible potential relationships. And think outside the box. Almost anything can make a good program, even things you wouldn't necessarily think, like a dog groomer could make a great program. A beekeeper could make a great program. If someone works in IT, they could do like a senior intro to computers program. Almost anything can make a great program. I like to start with local businesses. I find they can be very helpful, particularly when they're newer to town and they might be looking to drum up some local business, some more customers. These are things like a local florist, a local gym. We've had luck at Casey's. We've had them donate pizzas for our back to school pizza parties. They've donated pizzas and pop to us in the past. And then we also have our local bank donate a small grant for us to purchase school supplies and backpacks. And then we do a drawing to give them away to kids. And that's been a really successful program that we probably would not have been able to afford if it wasn't for those partnerships. And then enlist people you know. One thing I like to do, this might be creepy or weird, I don't know, but I've made a list of my Facebook friends, and I take note of what interests they have, what hobbies, what passions, what jobs they have. And from that, I narrowed down like what programs could I possibly make out of this if they're interested. And that has actually led to a lot of awesome programs. This picture is of a Facebook friend who teaches women's self-defense on the side. And she offered to come to my library and teach a women's self-defense course for free. And it was a small turnout that day because there was a snowstorm, but I had two mother-daughter duos that really enjoyed it. And those, you never know what kind of awesome program your friends might have unless you ask. Local heroes, these are things like a favorite teacher or a star basketball player, a firefighter, a doctor, a radio DJ. The kids at my library love the firefighters. They love seeing the truck and hearing the siren and spraying the water hose, and they love nothing more than meeting their local heroes. So that's been a really nice partnership to have as well. And then search out those partnerships that are mutually beneficial. So this is kind of like an I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing, where they benefit both parties. So we've had a lot of luck with our local nature center. They're always wanting to attract new members and donors, and they're happy to come out and do a program without charging the library anything. We've also had luck with local humane societies who want to attract potential adopters, volunteers. They do a great program. You could also search out clubs that are wanting new members. 4-H, I've heard, does a really great program. They have to have so many volunteer hours a year. So you're also helping them out by offering them volunteer hours at your library. And I've heard they do a great program. And then obviously, once that program ends that you've partnered up for, the work isn't over. You need to publicly acknowledge. I think it's super important to publicly acknowledge your donors or partners on social media, newspaper, radio, TV. And I also think that one good turn deserves another, which I try to leave positive reviews on social media for their page. I try to give them referrals, put out their business cards at my circulation desk, things like that. Let me see where I'm at here. And this is a picture of a donor wall. Now, we obviously, in my library, we don't have that kind of space to put up a donor wall, but I've seen a few and they're awesome. Or consider having a donor appreciation event at the end of the year. Invite your donors or partners to a little dinner or potluck or something like that, just a way to say thank you. And then remember that collaboration is a two-way street. Find a way to return the favor at some point, either leaving a positive review, as I said, help out at their events if you're able to. And I think it's important to remember that collaborations and good partnerships do take work. And then general tips I have for program success. Don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself, particularly with children's programs. As I said, if they can sense that you're uncomfortable, they aren't going to have as much fun. So I'm the biggest introvert. I get very sweaty and anxious at kids' events where I have to make myself be an extrovert, but it really does make a difference because they can pick up on that energy. And if you're having a good time, they'll have a good time too. If you feed them, they will come, offer free food, and you'll at least get a few teens. I find this is especially relevant to teen programs. They always want free food. Hands-on activities, free is key. I almost never charge for a program. I think that's so important, especially in small towns like mine. And share your own passions and interests. Some of my favorite programs have come because I wanted to do something that I was interested in and I was passionate about. And again, if people can tell you're passionate about it and excited about it, they'll get excited about it too. I think I'm going to skip. We're running out of time. I'm going to skip the summer reading part. And then I'm going to talk really briefly about how your programs are going to fail, and that's okay. I've had 0 attendees at a program, and I've had 400 attendees at a program. Now, the 400 is incredibly rare. That's at like an annual summer carnival. Otherwise, that never happens. But I just think it's important to remember that you aren't a programming librarian if you haven't had a programming fail. What I do, I like to keep a spreadsheet where I track all of my programs and how much attendance I got, what kind of feedback I got. And sometimes you can find patterns in your spreadsheet. If you keep a spreadsheet like this, you can find, oh, Friday night programs have never had good attendance. Maybe I should stop doing them on Friday nights. Or, programs are really slow in December. Maybe I should consider cutting down the amount of programs I try to do in December. And I think it's important that just because a program failed, that doesn't mean you failed. I think that's important to remember. Being a successful programming librarian is a marathon, not a sprint. And I think it's important that even if you are afraid a program will fail, it's important to take risks. Some of my best programs have come because I've taken risks with them. For example, I know this happened in 2017, but I'm never going to stop talking about it because Elizabeth Berg came to my library, and I'm convinced that was my peak. That was my peak as a librarian, and now it's all downhill from there because I will never have another program like that. It just happened because I happened to send an email at the right time. And I never expected to hear back from her. And the phone rang 5 minutes later. And it was her publicist. And he said, do you want to be the last, stop on Elizabeth's library tour? And so Elizabeth Berg visited my library, and it was amazing. And I don't think my library could have held one more person. And that never would have happened if I hadn't taken the chance to reach out to someone that I didn't even think would respond. And remember that you don't have to be a big library to have big programs. I think we have to stop thinking of our smallness as being a lack of something. And stop thinking, well, my library could never do that, because probably your library could do that. They could do it differently on a smaller budget, maybe. But you don't have to be a big library to have big programs. We've had amazing turnouts at our summer carnival, which if you do a program like that, just make sure you ask for help because it is a surefire way to burn out. But yeah, take those risks, guys. And you're doing amazing, sweetie. I just wanted to say that. I always have to have my Chris Jenner at the end. You're doing a great job, and your community is very lucky to have somebody like you working for them. And then there's my email address, so you can reach out to me for those links. Any questions?
I am muted. I think this has been just a really spectacular chat. So Chelsea, you'll have to scroll through it, and I think it's worth saving. We had lots of people talking about program ideas and how they've taken some of what you've done here. We talked in the chat about Lego nights and Casey's. I'm trying to think back through how everything has gone. We did have a few people who mentioned they were interested in your links, and so I wonder if that would be worth maybe just putting together as a little handout. Yeah. And we can send that out to everyone who came today. And of course, you see Chelsea's email there. You should feel free to send her an email, but we will also try to collect some of these things she mentioned as links as well. A couple of things that came to mind for me as you were talking is you mentioned a couple times like, oh yeah, my board members donate a couple bags of chips each or whatever. And I wonder if you can talk, has your board always been like that, or have there been things that you've been able to do over the years to kind of get your board committed in that way?
So I'm very lucky to have that. I realize that. I also need to apologize if anybody had the pleasure of seeing my sweat mustache. I'm so sorry. I am 8 months and 1 week pregnant, and it's just like all sweat, and burping and
Let me
all
tell you
sorts of fun
something.
stuff.
I have a 2-year-old, as you might remember, and the whole time I was pregnant with him, I could have won a burping contest any day of that pregnancy.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we're
it's very
there. Some
interesting.
of us have been there. We understand. You're doing great.
So I am very lucky in that my board is always willing to donate food or candy. Like for summer reading, they always donate snacks. I often don't have to buy any snacks for summer reading. I just kind of ask and they say, okay. Or they'll bake bars for events and things like that. I've just been, very lucky in that way. And
I think
I,
that's one, you were talking about being a small town and kind
yeah,
of flying that small town flag. That
right.
is one awesome way that you can like maybe even kind of tell your board, like, this is a way that you can get involved. Big library board member, like board members from bigger towns cannot do. Like,
Yeah.
no way you can bake cookies for all the kids
Right,
in
right, right,
that
right.
big town up the road summer reading program, but
Sure. We yeah, that is nice because, it would be if we had 100 kids at our summer reading program, they wouldn't be able to supply that much. But obviously we have at the most we have is like 40, so it's more reasonable. And then also I've done for city council, and again, this might be a small town thing. I've brought a sign up sheet of like different things people will donate, and then I hand it out as if it's just expected that they're going to donate. And sometimes that's enough. If I put them on the spot, they'll say, oh yeah, I can donate this, and that's probably another small town thing, but I've also been really lucky.
I love that, having specifics to say like, we need 3 watermelons or whatever the case might be, and then someone can, like, rather than just be, could you bring food? And no, go over there, get 3 watermelons, come back. That's good. I was also really thinking that, many of us have Facebook, probably the majority of us do. And your idea of like seeing what your Facebook friends post about and tapping them for programs is one that was completely new to me. And I have one friend who had no idea, like, to meet him. He's a statistician. He's like, I feel like I could not talk to him for more than 2 minutes. But then he posts all these amazing pictures of, like, he's got a fancy telescope and he can take these amazing pictures of stars and planets and things in the night sky that I didn't even know existed. And so, like, yeah, you could definitely tap someone to do things like that. Rachel, we've had a few questions come up too about what counts or not as programming, and I'm going to have to defer all of those to my colleague, Scott Dermont, and I will grab his email address and put it in the chat as well. Any other questions or comments from Chelsea while I'm doing that? For Chelsea, I used the wrong preposition. Okay, well, thank you, Chelsea, so much.